Man we've got here. We're talking James Harden. Harden recently reunited with his buddy Russell Westbrook in Houston. There's been a lot of talk around the league how these two will fit with each other. However, no one had publicly heard from Harden until now. Take a listen.
When you have talent like that, it works itself out. You know, you communicate and you go out there and you compete, and possession by possession, you figure things out. Throughout the course of the season, you figure things out, and that's just what it is, you know. But when you have talent, you have guys with IQ, you got guys that are willing to sacrifice, it always works itself out.
In a nutshell, from James Harden, if you have talent, it all sort of just works itself out, which sounds a lot better. I don't think it always works that way. But what did you make of what Harden had to say?
Well, great talent respects great talent. So when a great talented player walks through the door, you respect. When Randy Moss walked through the door, you saw the talent. You was like, I respect it. Now let me show you how to route run. Right?
That's true.
And once they figure that out, when great talent walks through you, you automatically respect it. Now, what great talent has a problem with is the lesser talented player where I may have to give you the ball. Nah, I can keep it myself. Harden is going to look at Westbrook and say, I don't mind giving it to you because I know you can do A, B, C, D, and E. Westbrook, and we forget, has led the league in assists. Everybody's talking about him being a selfish player, but remember, you know, he was heralded as the guy who's been getting triple-doubles. So he don't mind giving it up. So he's not going to have a problem giving it up to Harden. I think these two will be the modern-day Frazier Monroe. Remember, and you may be too young, Nick, but when Earl Monroe was getting talked about traded to the New York Knicks, there were some questions, could Frazier and Monroe work out?
Yep.
Well, we saw what they were able to do together. I look at Westbrook and I look at Harden. Right now, they are the modern-day Frazier Monroe in terms of the way they play. And you got to remember, when Westbrook was playing in OKC, every time he went down the lane, Steven Adams was there. There was a big guy in the lane that was clogging stuff up. Kendrick Perkins was in there, right? Now,
Andre Roberson's defender was in there because they didn't have to guard him.
Now, Westbrook, who's going to stop him from getting to the basket?
Well, so to me, that's the best case scenario for Houston, and that is the part that I don't think's been discussed enough, which is Russell Westbrook, when he has been surrounded by shooters, which has been rare in OKC.
Yep.
When they had one big man on the court and they ran a spread pick and roll. Russ, a big man, 3 shooters.
Yeah.
That was a nearly unguardable play in this league because even if you go under the screen, Russ is so fast, he can still beat you. And if you switch, you're sunk. And so he couldn't do that in OKC because as good as Sam Presti has been in spots, I don't know that he surrounded Russ with the ideal Russ around him. Did what he could, but they never had great shooting. Even when Durant was there, they never had great shooting ever since they moved off Harden. So that, to me, will be a great play when Harden's to the bench. We know what Houston can do when Russ is not out there, when it's Harden running the show. When the questions people have is, when they're on the court together and James Harden has the ball, in that spot, how does Russ positively affect the team when he's not a shooting threat and when he's used to being the one dribbling, controlling the offense?
Dude, when Russ and Harden are out on the floor together, this is how Russ's man going to be. You, Harden, you got the ball. Russ's man going to be saying, all right, I ain't leaving you.
Right, respect,
yeah. I mean, they're not going to leave him. So Harden's going to have free reign. Russ is going to have free reign. And then you got to remember, they got Eric Gordon who will be out there, PJ, Capella. I mean, Houston is loaded. Not only are they loaded, but they've had their heartbreaks, right? So their heartbreaks over the last 2 years have been devastating. And we know Harden, always in the playoffs, you can count on him missing one game. He's not showing up, right? Just not going to show up. Well, now you got Russ who's always there. So I just think they're going to be dynamic, and I think they're going to be very difficult to guard. And I think if I'm picking today, they are my early favorite to come out of the West.
Wow.
No, listen.
Wow.
I
like it.
Yeah, if I'm picking today, they're my early favorite to come out of the West.
Okay, now I'm going to listen to you. because ever since a young age, you've been teaching me about basketball. When my brother Butch, him and Isiah were teammates, he was trying to describe my game to Isiah, and he was telling me.
I watched him the other day make them 2 free throws against Ohio State again. I rewatched that game. I swear to God. And he went to the line. You talking about pressure. Butch straight net on both of them and act like it wasn't none.
Butch's brother went to, Chris's brother
anyway,
Butch went to IU.
But go ahead, I digress.
So Isiah's been knowing me since I was a kid. And Butch used to tell about, man, Chris is not going to pass the ball. And Isiah looked Butch straight in the eye and said, let's leave this boy alone. I got him. And he looked at me and said, you don't pass unless they're better than you. When you get to the level and they as good as you or better than you, you've worked on your game, don't pass to them unless they're better or at least as good as you. And I always tell people that. Isiah Thomas. That's my Isiah Thomas rule. Now, you also mentioned about Randy Moss. That was true. I had a lot of respect for the kid. I also felt an obligation to the game that the game was going to be blessed if this kid fulfilled his potential. But when Dennis Green started putting Randy Moss in my position in the offense, and he started letting Randy know, listen, we can dictate the coverage. I'm going to show you the secret recipe to how we've been making this guy so good. Didn't like that one so much. Yeah. So Harden, former MVP. Harden is trying to get postseason success. He don't need Russ, all right now in his career. I didn't need Randy Moss. It was up to the coaches to find the system, and it worked for about 3.5 years.
Right.
3.5 years, that's when they started putting him in my spot, and I wasn't happy. Do you believe in the coaching staff that they can put them in a situation that they can play that type of basketball? Because to me, I don't doubt their ability. Yeah. I doubt the scheme and the intellect of the coach to be versatile enough, and he hasn't shown that throughout his career.
Well, that's the million-dollar question. Will D'Antoni be? He has enough basketball knowledge and enough versatility from a coaching standpoint to draw from different playbooks, right? And he understands how to do that. But he has been stubborn in wanting to win his way with his style and prove that it can work. Now, he's had many chances to do it in many different places. And he's always had teams that complement his coaching style. Now, does he want to win or does he want to win his way? And that will be the question with the Rockets.
There's one other question for the Rockets, because I think that everyone acknowledges, even if Russ is flawed, 30-year-old Russell Westbrook is right now a better NBA player than 34-year-old Chris Paul. The Rockets got more talent, but I don't know that they got better defensively. Chris Paul, even at 34 years old, still not what he was defensively, still a very good defender. Russ has found himself wanting on that end of the court for quite some time. One part of Russ's defense, though, that I feel like goes underrated, and I've been waiting to ask you about this, is when you play the relentless style of offense that he does. You were a great defender, and you're right, but take that part out of it. How much was your defense improved by the fact that the guy you had to guard was exhausted from having to guard you? And that's the part for Houston. Like, playing Russ, as Zach Lowe put it, is a chore. It's just a pain. Like, he's going to constantly be going at you. How much does a player like that sap the other player's offensive ability because of the energy they're draining guarding him?
So it's just the reverse. So I wanted to play against that guy who was all offense, because once that guy who was all offense met resistance defensively, then I wore him down. Now, it's harder to defend. That takes offense away from you when you're resisting and you stopping people. Now, to be the great two-way player like Kawhi is, that's why there are very few great two-way players that have ever played all game. Jordan was a great two-way player, okay? Kawhi's a great two-way player. LeBron, when he wants to be, is a great two-way player. The ability to play offensively and defensively, that exhausts you. Now, when defense meets great offense, defense normally wins, okay? The myth is offense always wins. A challenge shot is made 22% of the time. So if I can stay with you and challenge, left-hand challenge, right-hand shooter, okay, the great players make maybe 35, 38% of those shots, right? But the great players always find a way to be open. Like we look at Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, them guys are always open. Very rarely are they taking tough challenge shots, okay? So my point is, when on the defensive side, I wanted to play against those guys who were always offense because I can take it away from them.
Lessons by Isiah.
I
forgot where I was for a second. I thought I was just listening to a podcast. I was just enjoying myself. Almost kicked my shoes off.
It's better listening to it than watching it.
Isiah, thank you so much for joining us today.
You are welcome.
Always
You're
great
welcome.
insight. Coming up.
Thank you.
24th greatest player in the history of basketball, right here.
Already
Lying. I'm a little better than that.